so since we're, kind of talking about this and you kind of touched upon it, briefly, how do you go into your properties? And I know we've been doing this for years, but a new investor, how would you figure out what it costs to rehab this? You had mentioned whether the plumbing is old or whether the building envelope is a little bit, is it older? How do you figure out, does this building make sense based on the cost of repairs, and how do you estimate those
Yeah.
repairs?
So great question, because, the condition of a building can make or break you, to be honest with you. I think somebody who's starting out, I think one of the great ways that what they should do and always do, and right now it's, in order to get buildings, some people pass up on doing home inspections, and some sellers don't want the home inspection to be done, because usually the home inspection is going to turn up, a lot of, could potentially turn up a lot of issues. But when I first started in the business, even though I had a little bit of a construction background and knowing some things, I didn't know everything, not even close. So what I did when we were buying properties or even selling them, I would always walk with the home inspector, because the home inspector has a certified education in understanding the, really the lifespan and the usability and the quality of construction on structures. So, and usually as long as you're not getting a first time kind of home inspector, you'll get an experienced home inspector that's probably inspected thousands of homes, and you can just ask questions, and they're always happy to share knowledge. And so tailing those guys around is super, super helpful. You also do find a lot of former builders that have gone into the home inspection business. And they used to be custom home builders. I just had a home inspection down in Braintree, which is a community south of Boston, for a friend and client of mine buying a house. And, just wrapping with the home inspector, he's a custom builder for 15 years. And he does this at times when, business ebbs and flows. So he's just like, yeah, he's like, I love doing it. So I have no problem with it. And it's a great business. So, you've got people with lots of experience, and that's one way to do it. And then you just start getting used to it. And I think the other part of it, the other thing you do is that when you see something, if you see rot, you see paint peeling, or you see, items that need to be fixed, which are just kind of with your common eye, and you say, man, that doesn't really look right. Call in those contractors. You don't have to call a general contractor come in to do a tile job. Call a couple of tile companies. Everyone always recommends call 3 different trades or 3 different professionals in and evaluate their price. And what they'll do is that each one will come in and you show them what you're looking at, and you ask them questions and ask them what they see. How would they fix it? And you start to understand the process and the pricing more importantly. And so I think that's the other side of it, is finding out what looks good, what isn't good, and what doesn't look good, and what's, in an existing property, what needs to be replaced and what can last for a little bit longer from the home inspectors. But then, through the tradespeople, you begin to understand what it takes to get things repaired, how long and how much. And then you really start to kind of understand, okay, and then you go from kind of property to property, and you begin to understand, okay, you know what? 2 properties ago, I had somewhat of a similar issue, but this is a little bit larger of a space. Well, if I extrapolate this out, and you just start thinking about your numbers. Okay, this is how he kind of prices the job. And now you take how that tradesman prices the job and you apply it into the new job. So you have a rough idea of what that should cost you. And then that's how we developed our pricing models, to be honest with you. The problem is, especially when we're doing much larger products and projects and doing whole buildings, the labor and material costs just continue to go through the roof every year. So, I mean, it's like, wait a second, I thought it should cost this. Nope, it's more expensive now. So that's, but that's part of the business as well. So that's how we've done it.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for 1 second, right? Yeah. So, I great advice. I've given that advice, and here's the objections that I always get is one is, well, each time I hire a home inspector, and I'm brand new to the business, right? I'm
Yep.
brand new to the business. Each time I hire a home inspector, it's costing me Tiger home inspection is $700.
Yep.
I don't want to spend that type of money every time just for my education, which is, you're dealing with a business that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. You should probably spend the $700 for
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
education, but I understand it, right?
Yep.
The other objection to the other side is, well, I don't want to call the painter in and ruin my reputation, or call these people in and not necessarily be entirely ready to use them, because, like I said, I don't want to, keep calling people out and they don't necessarily want to come because they know I'm not serious about the business. So I would give you two other options to couple that, with, I would say one is, and people may think I'm crazy when I say this, but I have spent probably close to, or if not more than 1,000 hours in Home Depot or Lowe's, right? And that's not just me shopping all the time. That's sometimes when I was brand new to the business, just to literally just to go and walk the aisles, and it was literally for my education, right?
It's a great point.
And
Yep.
just for my education. And what is Willie doing while he's walking the aisles of Home Depot is I'm looking around and I'm looking at the prices of things. I know that if a hot water tank breaks and I need to replace it, well, the hot water tank in Home Depot, 40 gallon, 50 gallon, 60, whatever it may be, let's say it costs you $700. Well, I know if I can get that tank for $700 and my plumber is charging me $2,700 to install it, I may have a problem there, because that means basically the plumber is charging me $2,000 for labor, right?
Yeah.
And then it gives you a basis for understanding what goes into a negotiation, unless he says the price of copper is going up and all these other different things, right? And I've heard that before, right?
And like, I got to power vent this. I got to
exactly.
Yeah.
The dumping cost is what skyrockets. The thing, right? It's flooring. I know how much flooring costs. I know how much tile costs. I know how much. So now you kind of, if you understand what the material itself costs, Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware, I walk these aisles and I look at things, even when I'm just kind of, when I didn't have two kids at home, I would spend more time just walking in, bored, and just kind of, educating myself. And you can now separate those two things. And then two, if you couple that with the wonderful platform called YouTube, right? You go on there and you say, how does it, or what is the process of installing a hot water tank? And not that I want to do it myself. I'm not a plumber. I'm not a handyman. I'm not handy in any way. I don't want to, but I want to understand what it takes to install a hot water tank. And if a guy on YouTube or a girl on YouTube can show me how to do it within 20 minutes, then I know that I probably shouldn't be paying $2,000 in labor for something that can be done in a very short period of time, right? So that's how I got my initial education, kind of going through and kind of estimating these costs for rehab.
Absolutely. And it's funny, today everyone's got YouTube. Back when I was a kid, I always watched This Old House on PBS. Loved that show. And they would literally break down how they would actually do installs, or like how things would work, and like that was another part of my early education. But YouTube's a great great tool. And I think walking the aisles of the Depot or Lowe's and understanding, I think that's brilliant, because if you don't have any type of real estate background, or you don't know what things are, like, part of being in this business and being in any business is being able to speak the language of the contractors.
Right.
My partner, John, John very well. He loves breaking my chops, because like if I pick up on a new terminology for something, I'll start using it. And he's like, dude, there it is. There's your new word. You use it all the time. Right. So, but it's true. Like for example, the first time I learned of the word sheathing, I'm like, isn't that just plywood that you're putting under the roof? Like, no, they call it sheathing. So
I can't lie, that was a big one for me as well.
Honest to God. So it's like, okay. And then, being able to talk, to somebody who does siding or roofing, and understanding what a square is,
right?
Like 100 by 100. And so, a 10 by 10 square is 100 square feet. And that's how they measure off the jobs. So understanding how each trade, A, understanding what issues you may have, B, understanding how a tradesman will come in and look at that job, and then see how that job needs to be done and what the pricing of the material is. If you understand the pricing of the material, you can separate out the labor. If you
Right.
could separate out the labor and understand how long it takes to get something done,
Right.
you can figure out if you're getting a decent job, a decent price or not.
Even price it, no,
And that's
absolutely.
when, yeah, and that's when you start to build quality relationships with contractors.